My name is Chum Struve if I've not been able to meet you personally. And again, welcome. We have a few upcoming events for January that I just want to bring to your attention. January 11th at the Minneapolis Club. The clubby in Minneapolis is the first Thursdays always. And the event is Women Business Owners, again, January 11th. January 17th, back here in St. Paul, we have Real ROI, Making Your Marketing Dollars Work. We'll have a panel covering major angles of marketing, such as SEO, strategy, and websites. And back to Minneapolis, February 1st, we have Navigating the Gig Economy, and that's a panel about the trend of independent workers. So if you'll be getting my emails. We do also have those events on our website, clubby.com, and our meetup as well. And so our luncheons are supported by some sponsors that we have. I want to thank them. We have the University Club, of course, and Olson Thielen CPAs, a consulting and accounting firm. Schwegman, Lundberg, and Worcester, IP attorneys for tech companies. The Irish Titan, which is a digital agency. Sunbelt Business Brokers for your business, and my firm, which is identity theft protection and legal plans for small businesses. At about this time, I think lots of people are winding down and finishing, or maybe some of you are just starting your holiday shopping and you don't have to raise your hand. I won't call you out or anything. And preparing to finish the year strong and maybe preparing for the new year. So, and trying to have a better year than ever from their previous year. So I'm finally really excited to have our speaker today. I've been trying to get him to Clubby here, St. Paul, for about a year and a half. So that's going to be off my bucket list here. We are honored to have Mark LeBlanc with us. He's a past president of the National Speakers Association. He has given over 1,000 presentations and coached over 1,000 professionals on how to grow their business. He is often referred to as the coach's coach or consultant's consultant because a banker gave him a $3,000 loan in 1983 to launch his dream. Mark started a foundation to support young entrepreneurs with $3,000 grants. He recently awarded their 12th grant to a kid with a dream. He is the author of Growing Your Business, Build Your Consulting Practice, and Never Be the Same. Never Be the Same was inspired by a short 500-mile walk across Spain in 2008. This last spring, he went on that short walk again for the third time. If you want to be more focused and generate more momentum, then you are in the right place. Let's welcome Mark LeBlanc.
All right. It's true. This past May, I flew to Spain to go on this short 500-mile walk. It's called the Camino de Santiago. Are any of you familiar with the Camino? Oh my gosh, a number of you. This is a bright group. It might be one of the brightest groups I've ever spoken to. And I don't say that to all the groups. Actually, I do, George, but I don't mean it. But today, I mean it. I flew to Paris, France, and took a train down to a little village in southern France called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. It's the most popular starting spot for the Camino. And you start in southern France in this little village, and you're up and over Mount Lepideur and into Spain, and you walk across northern Spain, and approximately 31 days later, you arrive in front of the Cathedral of Santiago. I first did this walk in 2008. And then in 2014, and then in 2017, this spring. It also, I have Camino 4 on the calendar for 2020. If any of you want to join me, August 29th through October 7th. I share that with you so you have time to get ready. One of the things that I've learned in this experience, whether it's the Camino or something else that might be meaningful to you, is to always have something to look forward to on the calendar. And I'm not talking about your long weekend to Vegas or, you know, some of those normal things, you know, but that you always have something that's meaningful and rich and that you can look forward to. I think it's a momentum keeper. A momentum keeper or a momentum holder. We ride the roller coaster of ups and downs from a momentum perspective and always have, no matter what's going on in my world, and I've ridden the roller coaster of ups and downs, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the great. I've been in business now for 35 years. I had a job once for about 6 months, and I found out at a very early age that I was unemployable. I was inspired by the 2 words, "you're fired," which is not so bad unless you're 21. And I've been on my own for the last 35 years, and I've experienced the good, the bad, the ugly, and the great, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. In fact, I think even more today than in 1983. There has never been a better time to be on your own. There's never been a better time to be on your own. And it's one thing, we don't have the time to go around the room, but I would suspect that whether it's in this profession that you are in or another profession that you are in, you know what it's like to have a great month or a great quarter or even the best year of your career. And then before long, you're in a bit of a valley again. And sometimes we think we get to a place and we think that momentum is going to remain, it's going to stay. And then pretty soon we wake up one day and it's like, what happened? You know, where did that energy go? I mean, we're coming into the end of the year, and I heard you say, Chum, that you want to finish strong. And that would be pretty normal. That, in my mind, that would be silly. Because maybe the greatest thing that you could do is not look at December as the last month of the year. Imagine if you looked at December as the first month of the coming year. How long do you feel New Year's resolutions tend to last? A month? 5 days. 2 months, couple weeks. I had someone say to me not long ago, Mark, until my next meal. We know that on average, New Year's resolutions tend to last about 5 days. In fact, the third Monday of January is considered the most depressing day of the year. It's referred to as Blue Monday. CNN will do a short clip on it come the third Monday of January. And it's that day of the year where the holidays are over, you know, everybody's gone. You're glad everybody's gone. And what I refer to as you reset your counters to 0 on January 1st. That is the number one moment of renewal in the course of the year. But before long, we're sort of in that valley and we're back to our similar or same attitudes, habits, beliefs, and behaviors that we had the second week of December or the third week of October. And we started the year with good intentions. In fact, there are 3 natural moments of renewal in your year. What would you suppose they would be? This is the audience interaction part of the program. New Year's Eve, September what? September 1st, back to school. Birthday is a great moment of renewal. I like to live in a world of 2 or more right answers. Pardon? First day of spring for you. Anniversaries. Typically, the 2 most common moments of renewal over the course of the year are January 1st and Labor Day. There's something about the end of summer and Labor Day and back to school, whether you have kids or not, whether you go to school or not, the summer's over. I don't know about you, but I don't take summers off. I still have to work. But somehow we get through Labor Day weekend and it's like, now I'm going to hit it hard for the rest of the year. The third most important day of renewal would be today. Today. The decisions you make and the steps that you take today will ultimately take you where you want to go, or they won't. I developed a concept a number of years ago, and the short story is throw away the concept of the calendar year. It's good for nothing. It's typically the way we compute our finances and our taxes, and it's the passing of the seasons. But someone at some point said we should set goals, and we should set them when? Around the beginning of the year. And do you ever set a smaller goal for the new year? Not usually. Especially don't let your sales manager, or your spouse or your partner hear that. But typically we never set a smaller goal for the coming year. And unfortunately, over the course of time, we lose our momentum. We recommit ourselves typically either on our birthday or Labor Day, and we're going to hit it hard. And then all of a sudden we wake up one day in the middle of October or early November, and we're a long way from where we wanted to be back on January 1st. Are you tracking with me? And then whether you consciously or unconsciously, you shift down. Oh, you're going to give it your best for the rest of the year, but the holidays are right around the corner. And you decide that, yeah, I'm still going to give it my all, but I'm going to take the rest of the year to get ready for 2018. Now, I know no one in here is in the getting ready to get ready mode, but outside of this room, there are plenty of people in business who are, I'm going to upgrade my website, and I'm going to organize my office, and I'm going to get rid of some files. I'm going to go to the post office and buy some stamps. But by God, I'm going to be ready when we get to January 1st again. And you get through the holidays, you eat too much, you drink a little bit too much, you party a little bit too much, you wake up on January 1st, glad it's in your rearview mirror. And you feel this moment of renewal. And at this point, you're going to give it everything you got. And you make what I refer to as the great commitment. This year is going to be different. And 5 days later, you're right back to center. You may be unique in God's eyes. You're not in mine. Because we've all been there. And all of a sudden, by the 3rd week of January, we're kind of right back. We're right back. But if you always have something to look forward to, no matter how miserable I am, or no matter how tired or frustrated, or if I've been let go, or I lost an opportunity, I've always got that momentum keeper. I've got something in the future to look forward to. On my very first Camino, I had just completed my term of service as the president of the National Speakers Association, a group of 3,500 professional speakers and no listeners. It was one of the greatest years of my life and my career and my work, and it's a volunteer position, and I spoke in 30 states and 5 countries around the world in a 12-month period while I was maintaining my own business. And in early August of 2008, we had our annual meeting in New York at the Marriott Marquis, Times Square. Amazing experience, 2,100 speakers from around the world. And when it was done, I thought I would come back to Minneapolis and rest up for a long weekend, and I would be right back to center. Only for the first time in my career, I understood what it meant to be burned out. And 30 days later, I was still on fumes, maybe not even fumes. And I shaved my head bald, shiny bald. I thought that would be a cool thing to do. I had always wanted to do that. I shaved my head shiny bald. I put a backpack on for the first time in my life. For those of you that have backpacks at home, or if you don't, imagine with me, what do you suppose you do when you're packing your backpack for the first time in your life? You put too much stuff in it. This had been on my calendar for 2 years. I had planned it out in detail. But the morning I was supposed to fly to Paris, it was as if my brain went out my ear. There are no stores in Spain. And I started to grab things. I mean, I had the jumbo shampoo. I had no hair, but I had plenty. I was going to have plenty of soap. I had the jumbo quantity box of Q-tips. Wanted to make sure I had clean ears. I grabbed 5 books. I thought I'll catch up on some reading along the way. And I flew to Paris, and if you can imagine this, a bald, burned out Marc LeBlanc with too much in his backpack, that was me. And I took a train down to southern France, and on the morning that I was to start, it started to rain. And the Camino doesn't break you in gently. You're up and over 3 mountains in 30 days, and the very first day is physically the most demanding. You're up and over Mount Lapeter. And you're not even leaving the little village of Saint Jean, and you're starting to ascend Mount Lapeter. I hadn't gone 2 miles, and I thought I was going to die. And I began to think, people have been walking the Camino for over 1,000 years. If I was a farmer along this way, I would set up a bench alongside the road, maybe serve lemonade or iced tea. On average, 100 people a day, every day of the year, start this walk. And I hadn't gone 2 miles in the rain, and there around a bend was a bench alongside the road. It was actually set back a bit in the ditch. And I couldn't believe that I was stopping for a break after about 2 miles. And I took my backpack off, it's raining, I sit down on this bench, and I'm actually sitting in a little bit of a dump because people who had stopped here figured, if I got to carry something for 500 miles, every ounce counts. There were all kinds of things on the ground. And I sat on that bench and I began to think about my life and my work and the good and the bad and the ugly and the great. And I couldn't believe it. And I've had all of that in both my business and my personal life. And I was doing well. And when all of a sudden it hit me, I had 498 miles to go. And that is instant depression. And I immediately began to think about, how might I get out of this? Maybe I could walk back 2 miles, take a bus to Barcelona, and just hang out for 5 weeks. No one would ever know. And I don't know how long I sat on that bench in the rain, and pretty soon I stood up, I put my backpack back on, and 33 days later, and 500 miles, and over 1 million steps across northern Spain, I arrived in front of the Cathedral of Santiago. It was the most grueling and the most profound experience of my life. What has happened for me since October 11th of 2008 has been nothing short of astounding. So much so that I went back in 2014 and again in 2017. But let me take you back to that very first night. I'd gone up and over Mount Lapeter, landed in a little village called Roncesvalles in northeastern Spain, and one of the most common questions I get is, where do you stay along the way? And you stay in these hostels called refugios, and they're about $10 a night, and you have a walker's passport. You have to be a registered walker of the Camino to stay in one of these refugios. And I stumbled into this converted monastery, and I paid my $10 or $5 maybe at that time, and wasn't sure what to expect, and said, well, where might my room be? And the woman said, well, turn around, buddy. And I turned around, and there were 60 bunk beds. And it was full that night. Do the math. That's 120 people in one room overnight, ages 20 to 70. That is a symphony of sounds during the night like you can't imagine. And it was the best $5 I ever spent. But that night, I was having dinner with about 10 or 11 other walkers, and we're scared. We don't know what we're in for. We don't know why we're there. And I met these 3 women from England. One in particular, her name was Judith. Now, she didn't look like a walker to me. I didn't tell her that. That's your inner voice. Here I'm champion wrestler from northern fertile Minnesota, and I'm tough guy. I'd been training for this. I'm dying after one day. And this was Judith's third year. And over the course of the conversation, I said, Judith, I said, might you have any advice for me? And Judith looked at me, and she said, Mark, I've learned one thing. And I said, what's that? And she said, no matter how badly your feet are bruised and blistered and bleeding, she said, you can always take one more step. You can always take one more step. I have grown up in the National Speakers Association. I have listened to and had lunch with and learned from the best of the best. Norman Vincent Peale and Art Linkletter and Jack LaLanne and Jim Tunney and Ira Hayes and Og Mandino, and you name it, I've heard them, know them, met them, spent time. I've heard every miserable motivational quote in the history of the world. Nothing ever inspired me more than the words of the great Judith, you can always take one more step. And I hung on to that little pearl of wisdom for over 1 million steps across northern Spain. I don't know where you are at on your journey or your path. Camino is just Spanish for the way. I would love for you to think of the next 10 years as a 10-year Camino for you. Where are you at along your way? And what change might you need to make on your Camino or on your way that might help you move a little bit differently in the direction of your dream. No change, no change. I want you to think about that. By the way, every once in a while I say something good. I'm not sure where it comes from, but that was good. You might want to write that down. At all of the tables, there is a handout or a note sheet, and I think we got a little bigger crowd here than maybe we were expecting, so we might have to share a little bit, or there might be some extra ones, but no change, no change. I would write that one down. You see, over 1,000 presentations over the course of my career and working one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and independent professionals, I've learned that when people get to December, not much has changed. Oh, maybe a little bit here and there, or sometimes you have that great year. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And I've been there too. And in fact, I'm fighting the good fight every day, just like you. You're hearing me, most of you, for the first time. I've heard me 1,000 times. And I'm still challenged by many of the same things that you are challenged by, but by and large, you pretty much weigh the same as you did last December, plus or minus a few pounds. Your bank account is pretty much the same. Your debt load, pretty much the same. So if everything is pretty much the same, what will set you up differently for 2018? And I'm here to suggest to you or let you know there's no magic bullet. There's no quick fix. In fact, an exercise I'd love to share with you, I call it your ultimate lighthouse. Your ultimate lighthouse. Write down in the next 24 hours or in the next 72 hours, what are the 10 things you want in the next 10 years, both personally and professionally? What are the 10 things you want in your life and in your work in the next 10 years? I first did that exercise. I created the exercise August 25th of 2012. Some of you might be familiar with the retreat house out in near Stillwater called De Montreville. Retreat house for men, about 100 men go out there, a silent retreat, about 3.5 days. I go every year, and at one point I just decided to write down the 10 things I wanted in the next 10 years, and I signed and dated it. Interestingly enough, 5 of those things have happened in the last 5 years, but not the 2 things that I thought were going to happen in the first year. The 2 things that I thought would be the easiest to knock out in that next year are still not even done. But 5 of the 10 are. But it was always driving me to something. And some of them were personal, some of them were professional. But what do you want? In fact, that's the second most difficult question for people to answer, is the question, what do you want? Take a deep breath. Let it out. One of the challenges that I find with salespeople and with business people from all walks of life across many different industries is they go to the marketplace trying to sell anything. In fact, sometimes they have a flawed business model. Sometimes they have an incomplete business menu. I would challenge you, or better yet, encourage you, what might your signature sale be? What might your signature sale be? What is the one program, product, presentation, or service you specifically want to sell more of? Now, I know most all of you have a lot of things on your menu of programs, products, services, or some of you presentations, and you love them all. I have 5 profit centers. I have a coaching profit center. I have a speaking profit center. I have a public seminars profit center. I have a products profit center. And I have a licensing profit center. I love everything I do. But when I was getting up in the morning trying to move my menu kind of in tandem, I would end up with 2 great months a year, 2 terrible months a year, and about 8 average months a year. What do you suppose you get when you have 2 great months, 2 terrible months, and 8 average months? About an average year, but worse. You're riding that roller coaster of ups and downs. What in your menu could you shine a bright light on? What in your menu of products and services do you specifically want to sell more of? That is the million-dollar question. And one of the greatest examples I often share, especially outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul, if we were to go around the room and share our favorite restaurant, whether it's a dive, a drive-in, a diner, fine dining, doesn't matter. Most of you have a favorite place that is known for something. They've got something on their menu that is their signature or flagship dish. They've either got a great hamburger, the best bowl of chili in town, the best key lime pie, something that they put a bright spotlight on. And you go there, and when people come in from out of town, you take them there. Now, you might not have their signature dish every time you go there, but that's what they're known for. Greatest example in my book, many of you know this being from the Twin Cities, Murray's in downtown Minneapolis. I've been fortunate to travel all over the world, eat at some amazing restaurants, and for my money, nobody does it better than Murray's. Been in business for approximately 70 years. It is my favorite restaurant. Whenever somebody comes into town, I take them to Murray's. Why? What is their signature dish? Their silver butter knife steak. Now, if you're a beef eater, they've got 7 different types of steak. I've had them all, and I like them all. But the silver butter knife steak is their signature dish. And for 70 years, they built their brand on the silver butter knife steak. And so when I'm speaking outside of Minnesota, I will say to the audience, you come to Minneapolis, I'm taking you to Murray's for the silver butter knife steak. I'm not going to say that here. I have had grown, large men from Texas and Oklahoma laugh at me and say, what could you know about beef in Minnesota? And they've come to Minnesota, and I've taken them to Murray's. And Carl from Tulsa, Oklahoma, big guy, he took one bite of the silver butter knife steak, and his eyes started to get misty. What for you is Murray's silver butter knife steak? What is the one program or the one product or the one service, especially if, doesn't have to be your most expensive item in your menu, but it could be a gateway sale. It could be a gateway sale to other things that if you sold more of this, everything else would come along for the ride. Saying yes to one thing doesn't mean you're saying no to others. You've heard that expression before, that focus is everything. How many of you have heard that expression? Focus is everything. It's not. Today more than ever, Extreme focus is everything. How many of you have ever had a day get away from you? There are so many things coming at us, and even with good intentions in the morning, we put our head on our pillow at night. It's like, where did this day go? The decisions you make and the steps that you take each and every day will ultimately take you where you want to go, or they won't. How many of you, by a show of hands, would love to, truly love to finish this month strong and kick off your 2018 even stronger? Would you raise your hand? That was the right answer. Go ahead and stand up. If you need to accelerate your results, starting today, in fact, and finishing December and kicking off your January, I want to encourage you to adopt what I feel is a very simple strategy. It's what I call my storm starter strategy. Hold up one finger. Warm up a little bit. Never try this at home unless you've warmed up properly. Hold up one finger and repeat after me. Make one business development call a day. One a day. One a day. One a day. Just like my vitamins. One a day. One a day. One a day. Give yourself and each other a round of applause. Go ahead and sit down. That's it, Mark. That's all I got to do. That's it, baby. That's all you got to do. Is make one true business development call a day. 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month for the next 12 months. However, here's the rub. You would never take a week's worth of vitamins on a Monday. You would never get up on a Monday morning and say, you know, I'm traveling this week. I'm kind of busy. I've got some time here on Monday morning. I'm going to knock out my 5 storm starter calls this morning. You'd never take a week's worth of vitamins. Or if you went on vacation for 10 days, or you took the rest of December off, and you thought, I'm going to start that strategy in January, you'd never get to January 2nd and say, you know, I was going to do it the last 10 days, but I didn't. I'm going to take 10 days worth of vitamins and catch up. You'd never do that, would you? It's one a day. It's one a day. It's one a day. Now, can you take a multivitamin? Sure. It could be, if you wanted to make 3 calls on a Monday, great. How many do you make on Tuesday? 1. If you skip Wednesday and Thursday for any reason, how many do you make on Friday? 1. The most important words you will ever hear come from my lips, the one concept that may be the most challenging to adopt. Are you ready? No plus or minus carryover. No plus or minus carryover. We live in a world of plus and minus carryover. If you can get into the habit of resetting your counters to 0 every 24 hours, it becomes easier to reset your counters to 0 every week. If you get into the habit of resetting your counters to 0 every week, it becomes easier to reset your counters to 0 every 30 days. Why have one New Year's celebration a year when you can have 12? Ditch the calendar year and begin to look at your numbers, begin to look at your work effort on a rolling 12-month basis. December was just the first month of the next 12-month rolling calendar year. The problem with January 1st is that whether you hit your goal or miss your goal, you're always back at the bottom of the mountain. With a 12-month rolling calendar, you're never back at the bottom of the mountain. Take a deep breath. Let it out. In 2004, my practice marriage came to an end. It was a goal I had not remembered setting. I had been married for about 19 years. We were living in La Jolla, California. It came to an end, and unfortunately, and I found myself on my own. And I was very clear that I wanted to be in a committed relationship, and I wanted to get married again one day. And dating for the divorced is not an easy path. For any of you that have found yourself in that situation. In fact, I started doing stand-up comedy in clubs. In fact, I won an amateur talent contest here in Minneapolis doing 10 minutes of stand-up on dating for the divorced. My theme was women are crazy and men are losers. And it was all based on true dating stories. You cannot make this up. But I was on my own for 8 years trying to find someone that I could marry. And until July 23rd of 2011, I went on the worst date in the history of the world. And I was so discouraged. I was so disheartened. I thought, that's it. I'm done. I am done. I am going to be single and celibate for the rest of my life. And then I thought, well, maybe not celibate, but I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. And I went online. I was on Match.com. I thought, I'm going to hide my profile. I'm going to cancel my subscription. This is it. And I looked at the screen, and I thought, I'm going to hit search one more time. I took a deep breath, I hit search, and up popped Anne. And I knew I was going to marry her as I looked at her on the screen. Some people know when they meet for the first time. I knew looking at, what do you write to the woman who's going to marry you when you haven't met yet? I had nothing. Mr. Communicator, I had nothing. I didn't know what to write. I had tried everything. I didn't even write hello. All I wrote was, where have you been? And I signed my name and I hit send. And Anne got the email, where have you been? And it intrigued her just enough that she responded, and she emailed me back and she said, what do you mean, where have I been? In my life or in my work? And I emailed her back. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, I wasn't clear. I said, what I meant was, did you just get online today? I thought I knew every woman between 5'2" and 5'9" within 30 miles of 55401 with my profile of my perfect date and my perfect mate. And she emailed me back and she said, no, I've been online for probably longer than I care to admit. She had never popped up in my carefully defined searches. And 5 days later, we met at Ike's in downtown Minneapolis. And she walked into Ike's for a 4 o'clock happy hour, and it was game over. That was it. That was it. I already knew I was going to marry her. It took her a little longer. About 10 days. And 4 months later, we were engaged, and we just celebrated our 4th wedding anniversary. And I thank God for Anne each and every day. One other thing that I do is every day I will look at her or call her or text her if I'm on the road. I will simply say, thank you for loving me. Not for anything specific, just thank you for loving me. There's something about love backed up by gratitude that is a one-two punch or a 1-2 step that is just unstoppable. Ann and I also have gotten into a morning ritual. Together we read from a paragraph from a daily devotional, and it takes less than a minute. And then we also choose someone specifically by name, and we say just a short prayer for that person every day. It takes less than a minute. And the fascinating thing to me that I have learned along the way, whether it's in your personal life or your business life, that what you do every day is more important than what you do once in a while. What you do every day is more important than what you do once in a while. Take a deep breath. Let it out. You're not the brightest group I've ever, but you're the best looking. Did you like that one, George? Thank you so much for coming out and being with me today, and Chum and Club E. You've been great. My contact information is on that sheet. I've brought a handful or two of books. If you buy a book of mine, any one of them, I'll sign it for you. If you buy two, I'll come to your house and read it to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays to everyone, and we'll see you in the new year.